welcome back to Reality with Reality Hub, and we're in the lovely Browne St Cafe again in Rosebank Road, Avondale, one more time. And what a lovely day it is. A little bit damp outside, but the sun's shining through the clouds. We've got the lovely people of Browne St Cafe eating around us, and I'd have to say I'm enjoying recording here. Rob, what about you?
Well, you could probably tell we're at Browne St if you are a regular listener, because you can hear the hustle and bustle.
Yeah.
The clink-cling, clunking.
They could call it Hustle Street, couldn't they? Because people come and they go, and there's a real nice vibe of conversation going on here.
Yeah, and we had caught up with a bunch of amazing friends just recently.
Yes, we did.
Just the other day, and we mentioned that we record at Browne St. And I think it was Michael who mentioned, it brings a life to the episode, doesn't it?
It was.
Because you're out in public. And
shout out to Michael Hallows and Michael Edwards, who we caught up with just the other day, and who I think we might be able to convince to come onto our show for Michael Edwards for a second time. It was Michael Hallows who said it brings the life in and the energy around you, and that's true. You know, and when we first started recording, it was just silent in the recording studio, which I still like as well, but this reminds you that there is a world outside of you going on right now. It's cool.
And it also works, this second studio. Well, it's kind of the second studio, isn't it?
Yeah, well, my situation's changed, of course, and because I've looked for a new studio where I'm traveling more often, this is just really convenient. So I've got a cool story to kick off the week with.
Yes.
I kicked it off on Facebook earlier in the week as well, but I want to share it to the people around the world listening who love a little bit of woo-woo to start their podcast listening with.
Woo-woo.
My mother passed away a year ago, and on the day this happened, it was 1 year and 1 day after she passed away.
11.
Well,
very, very spiritual.
If indeed you're looking at it from that perspective. Well, on the day that marked the year anniversary, and I'm not really one for anniversaries. In fact, I could probably tell you your star sign because I tend to remember people's birthdays, but then I forget to wish them a happy birthday because I'm not really one for remembering anniversaries in that sense. But my mother was. She had an excellent sense of occasion. Also, she would remember people's birthdays, send out birthday cards. She prolifically wrote and got in touch with friends from her old folks' home. In fact, I remember the old folks saying to me she was always asking for envelopes and stamps and something to write on, and she'd always keep up with people, which was really sweet of my mum. And so I remember on the day that marked the year since she passed away, I actually just went to bed early and I forgot about it. And then the next day I was like, God damn it, I forgot it was mum's year. And I was sitting there thinking, how can I mark this day? What's the right thing to do, you know? Do I light candles? Do I call upon the spirits? Do I hold a seance? Should there be an aspect of voodoo or at least, aromatherapy involved? Burning incense is what I was trying to say. But no, I was sitting there thinking, how do I mark this moment? But I often speak to my mum. I go, hey mum, love you, miss you. Thanks so much for the things you did in my life. And I say these thoughts often when I'm driving. But I thought, what would be a nice way of marking this moment? Well, she beat me to it, Rob. She actually beat me to it.
And this sounds like your mum.
Yeah. She got in ahead of me. And this is how she did it. After she passed away, I gave away a number of her things to close friends. And one particular friend who loves knickknacks and jewellery and so forth, which I didn't really hold any value to. And I let her have most of that stuff, including Mum's entire collection of teaspoons of the world, because she travelled a lot and she had something from Vienna, something from California, something, always a teaspoon, one of those commemorative teaspoons. So all that kind of stuff I decided to let go of, holding on mostly to just a few photographs that I've framed and put up around the place to remember her by. And my friend, whose name is Ellie, was about to go on 6 months maternity leave, and she caught up with me to give me all the bits and pieces back because we worked together.
Oh, Ellie. Yeah, Ellie. Shout out to Ellie.
Shout out to Ellie. And so she handed things over to me, and we caught up, and we had our last sort of meeting before she went away. And she said, "But I think your mum would want you to have this back." I was like, "What's this?" And it was a little round necklace. Okay, thanks, I guess. But because I was willing to let it go. No, she said, "You don't understand. Look inside of it." I went, oh, it's a locket. It opens up. And inside, and I wouldn't have figured out how to open this up. I had a tricky little latch on it. And she went, "I discovered this the other day when I was playing with it. And look what's inside. A photo of me as a baby and a photo of me as a teenager about to go off to the school ball." And these photos, she'd simply just cut the heads out and stuck them into the locket, because it was just a little round space in a couple of places that sort of opened up like a door that you could put those photos on. Well, of course, I was quite touched, quite moved by that, because my mum from the grave, in my opinion, had managed to get this back to me through a friend. And mark the year, and I just thought that's such a cool mum move. That's the sort of thing my mum would do, and I have these kinds of spiritual beliefs, and I enjoy it, even if it's just a story, even if you poo-poo it. It's part of remembering the dead and the dead remembering us, because we're all it's all we all live on, in my opinion.
Thanks for that story, Steve. I think it's a good reminder of getting. We have this form, like we're so consumed by the physical world and life that we forget that there's this whole other realm of formless, of spirituality, of magic, of the universe conspiring. And I love those moments that remind you of those, that there's something out, there's something hidden that's unseen. Maybe these forces at work that play out through events and that conspire. And, I love stories like that.
Well, there were two things about it that really spoke to me. One was the timing of it, which was one day after her anniversary, as if to say, well, if you forgot me, here's something from me. And the other is just the fact that this is a locket that my mother would have worn over her heart and never told me what was in it, never have told me that inside it was a picture of me, which, makes me quite emotional to even say it. And so I felt quite loved by receiving it back. And so I feel like saying, "I love you too, Mum," because I feel like in doing that, she's saying, "I love you, son."
Yeah.
So that's why it was so special for me.
Beautiful
anyway.
message.
Yeah.
I mean, it's those little things like that touch you. They don't have to be grand, huge offerings, successes, titles. It's those little things that have meaning and significance, personal significance, that often are things you remember as well, I find. And as you say, it speaks to you, and that's what's most important, and it's personal.
And have you had a good week?
I've had an interesting week. I felt like energetically, it's funny, I'm not a winter guy, and we're slowly pulling out of winter here. And a lot of people have said it's a mild winter. I always look forward to the newness and optimism of spring and the longer days. And every day the sun's setting just a minute further.
Later,
that's the word,
longer.
And I notice these things, and I notice when trees start to bloom and there's new signs of growth. Anyway, I felt I was ready for a really good week energetically, and it sort of didn't pan out that way. I don't know. I just felt something was off, and I haven't been sleeping very well. I'm waking up between 3 and 4, and I mean, I still don't know why. Some people that are tuned in might say it. Your multidimensional self is working in other realms. You're receiving downloads. It's all, it's just supposed to be that sort of very spiritual time of... There's that people wake up at 4, and apparently your brain activities or your brain state's at a certain place as well. And they say that a lot of successful people will wake up at that time because it's just a key time. I don't know. Whatever you believe in.
Seems to be when the birds want to wake up.
Yeah, I guess there is a natural rhythm to that, and there is some truth to that, but
that's what I mean by the birds. It's a natural rhythm to it. For sure.
But as far as my week, it was one of those things where, like, I meditate in the morning, and it's like nothing was really wrong, but I felt like something was sort of off, like I wanted to get going. It was really hard to explain. It was not. The more I tried to center myself, the harder it was. It was really weird. And yet, I'd have a good training session. I would catch up with people. I would try and, I guess what I was trying to say, I was trying to shift the energy. And sometimes it's really hard to do. The more you try, the harder it is. And then naturally, you will get back to, Deepak Chopra mentioned this on a quick little podcast that I was listening to last night about an emotional set point. When you're slightly off, you're not feeling quite yourself.
Yeah.
But eventually, everything passes. And if you maybe acknowledge where you are rather than resist it, and just allow yourself to get back to a natural emotional set point. So I thought that was quite helpful. But sometimes you got to remind yourself that you're just human and you can feel a little bit off. And it's nothing dramatic, but it's kind of just sort of affects your sort of well-being. Although there's nothing really, we're such, we all are very complex, sensitive.
Well, you are. No, we
strange,
both are. But
weird, but yeah.
have you ever had a sense of dirty energy? And not.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. No, so one of the things I like about dirty energy.
You mean explain dirty energy?
Yeah, and I don't mean like in the way the British say, no, naughty. I mean dirty in the sense that rough and raw and not clean. But sometimes you can be absolutely on fire with energy. But you're not in the best condition in your life, but you've got energy anyway.
Right.
And you're just powering ahead, and you go, there's something dirty and raw about it that just kind of propels you through your day. And it's not pristine or serene. It's not necessarily centered, but holy shit, you could rock out to AC/DC and just charge all day.
Yeah.
It's a dirty energy.
Well, whatever you're taking, Steve.
Yeah, do you want some? I've got some here in my pocket, actually.
I thought you mean dirty energy as in sort of energetically it's not quite clean, it's not quite pure, it's coming, it's sort of a distortion of it's kind of not your own energy.
No. I
You mean raw energy, like organic, kind of powerful.
I mean, it might have helped that I had a couple of coffees, and I might be on borrowed time, but still you're having a good time.
Yeah.
And sometimes you say, well, as a human, things don't always have to be perfect.
Yeah.
You don't always have to be centered, like you were saying.
I know.
And it's okay to be propelled through your day and go, I'm a little off, but I'm having a good time.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just the phase of the moon, or sometimes it's an environmental or climate thing, and you're just susceptible to it. I can't put my finger on exactly, but that's sort of how my week was in terms of an energetic or sort of place. But you're right, you can't always be on form, on top of things, walking tall, confident. There's that whole, once again, duality and contrast in life that you've got to acknowledge. Binary sort of state of things. So yeah.
I've got another story to share with you, actually, which came about from a Santa gig that I did.
Well, it's a little early for Christmas.
Yeah, it is a little early. It's the midwinter Christmas stuff going on in New Zealand.
For our southern hemisphere folk, we understand this, but the northern hemisphere is like midwinter. What?
Yeah, right. So it's weird. It's not.
Well,
it's not even winter. We call it midwinter.
Wonder who came up with this midwinter Christmas thing? Because is that a New Zealand thing?
It's a bastardization of the phrase, which should, to make sense, say mid-year winter, right? Because if you're in the northern hemisphere, this is kind of summer for you, or is summer for you, and in New Zealand, this is winter now. Oh, no, that makes sense. Because we're in winter, it's our midwinter period, and we're going to have Christmas anyway. Because Christmas for New Zealand comes in summer.
Which northern hemisphere people can't
relate to.
Yeah.
And so the tradition and all the artwork and all the traditional ritualistic aspects of Christmas is within winter. So when we have our winter, we're not having Christmas. So we go, okay, let's have a midwinter Christmas thing. And so along comes the June, July dinners at work and corporates go out and they go, we're having our midwinter Christmas party in June or July. So, of course, just a week or two back, I had my midwinter Christmas party gig that I was invited to as Santa Claus. So this is a cool story because I go and do a Santa gig once a year for this particular corporate as an actor, and I get the Santa gear and I dress up, and typically I go and entertain the kids, and they set up a grotto, and I'm the youngest Santa they've ever had, but I've got a lot of energy, you know, and then I'm like, Merry Christmas to all the kids, and they're coming up and they're getting presents, and you're calling out their names, and the parents are there taking photos of them, and it's just this machine that churns through. Child after child comes through, goes, thank you, Santa, and you give the kid its present, and it runs away and gets a snapshot. And that's like a family day thing that we do for this company at the end of the year at Christmas time. So anyway, this company happens to be a pharmaceutical company, and I don't work for them, but I come in as Santa Claus. And of course they've nailed it this year because they're selling the shit out of face masks and protective gear because of the environment. and they've done really well, so they're celebrating and they're having this midwinter Christmas party. And I'm supposed to come in as Santa Claus and do all these activities and entertain the crowd who are having dinner and dessert, and there's going to be a live band karaoke set up. And I arrive and they're already off their tits, piss drunk, singing as loud as they can to the live band karaoke, making love to that microphone. I mean, there's nothing sanitary or unviral about that microphone. They're having a good time.
Yeah.
And the tables in the room have disappeared. It's been turned into a dance floor, and it's rocking. And my job is to come in, and I'm supposed to entertain them with words and stop them and do this sort of bad Santa act, which is intentionally bad. Like, he was designed to be like a rip-off of the movie Bad Santa. And then kind of get them laughing and get them up and moving. And I say to the organizer, they're already up and moving.
Yep.
If I do this, I'm going to destroy the evening.
Yes.
I was like, they're off having a great time. And then we're like, what? Going to have them stop and sit and listen and then do the things that Santa... Come on. And they went, you're right. What are we going to do? And I said, well, I know what we're going to do. I'm just going to go out there as Santa, and I'm just going to dance and sing with them. And they're going to be like, who the hell's this? And I'll be like, Santa, what are you, stupid? And we're just going to have fun. And so I went up there. I just joined in with the songs that they picked. We did I Will Survive. We did...
Of course you did.
Elvis Presley, you know.
It's Raining Men.
I'm caught in a trap and I can't walk out. And we had a great time. And then Santa left. And they were like, wow, Santa came to our midwinter Christmas party. And the lesson for me was, sometimes no matter what your best laid plans were, that you thought the way you thought it was going to pan out, the best thing can be to just be agile and change and go, it's not going to be this. This isn't going to be how it's going to go. I might have planned for 2 days how this was going to go. And I did. And I got everything ready and I had stuff prepared and activities and I was going to entertain them. You just drop it all and go, let's have some fun.
Yeah.
Because like you've often said to me, you got to be able to read the room.
Exactly. You would have known straight away with the vibe and the energy that, oh shit, this is the wrong time to be doing what I'm supposed to be doing, or what I had in mind. So then you had to improvise, adapt, and then adjust accordingly. Yeah. And I've been in that situation as well, having done events. And I know we were talking about this early on in the week about reading the room and going, okay, throw the script out. We have to think on our feet. What can we do to still create, or to offer some sort of
fun
and
the point is to have a memorable experience.
It's being fluid and adjusting and adapting to the environment.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I guess the lesson out there is to remember that, to be fluid and adjust to your environment, and don't let some stubborn idea of how you think it needs to be ruin the event. Let it change. Let it evolve.
Exactly. Yes, particularly in that world.
Yeah.
Where with events, best laid plans, things can just fall apart. I'm sure a lot of event organisers and planners have to have contingencies. Oh shit, the band is late or something.
That's right.
Or something that the catering. Oh, we don't have something's amiss somewhere, and it's the worst nightmare. But the funny thing is, having worked in the events, and I've just reminded me of something. Often the people that are, what do you call it? Not the customers at the event, the attendees. What do you call them? The guests. The guests.
Call them the guests.
Yeah. Often they don't see any of that because it's all the behind-the-scenes stuff. They wouldn't even know that something was off or something was not going to plan, and that's a cool thing.
That's right.
So you don't stress out. You go, as long as they're having a good time, people don't mind. You know, they don't have to have everything perfect, and And I remember that was a good lesson as well. As long as people are treated well, they're having a good time. Normally, if they just have a glass of bubbly and they've had a couple, they won't remember anyway. By the time, that's another thing. So, yeah. Anyway, what's been happening in the world events? Like nothing's been happening, eh?
Oh, nothing.
Yeah. Like everything's pretty chill.
Look, you're just your usual run-of-the-mill scaremongering to make you on your toes about a second wave of coronavirus and maybe the odd explosion in the Middle East.
Nah, surely not.
Third, fourth, whatever. Yeah. Rosike 5 happened. Gosh, so many interesting things. Let's get real. Lots of cool shit. And if you're into astrology, Rob's got a couple of things to say.
Yeah, no expert on astrology, although I've been looking at it purely to get a different perspective on what's happening, to get a planetary perspective on the energy and events of this year, because it's just shit's been happening.
Well, let's start with the first piece of giant hunk of shit. There was a massive explosion in Beirut.
Yeah.
Did you see the footage?
I logged on to Instagram, and it was all over social media. And my first impression was, oh crap, who's bombing? What's this about? What's this attack about? But apparently it wasn't a missile attack or a bomb, but it was a natural explosion because of what was contained in that warehouse or port or whatever. The accelerant it was weird, man. It looked dodgy.
Well, there has been discussion that it could have been a missile, right?
Yeah, I mean, I saw a post, London Real Army, Brian Rose, London Real TV. I mean, this could have been a whole bunch of other platforms, but you could see a missile or some sort of projectile going in just before that second, or the big explosion, that big mushroom shockwave. I mean, that thing was huge, like Cyprus. It was felt how many miles away. Just
it got its own. Yeah, it got 3.8 on the Richter scale.
Yeah, I mean, you could just see just by the footage that it was something spectacular. I mean, what does that?
Yeah.
What the hell does that?
Well, the thing is, and I'm open to
so many questions.
I'm open to alternative ideas that it could have been a missile and that's been covered up. But the size of that explosion struck me as bigger than what a missile could do. I know, not bigger than what a nuclear bomb could do.
Yeah.
But it was so wide-reaching and had such expanse.
Yeah.
If that was one missile, my goodness. Because it wasn't nuclear, right? It hasn't irradiated the town and wiped it out.
No, but it was the force of the explosion caused that shock. Just the energy of it caused all that secondary damage.
Nearly 3,000 tons of ammonium nitrate. Actually, I'm not sure if that's correct. Have a look.
Yeah.
But Timothy McVeigh in the Oklahoma building bombing.
Right.
And you could argue that was not what it's said to be either, but they were able to establish that 2 tons, just 2 tons of ammonium nitrate were utilized for that bomb. And no matter how you argue it got there or who set it up or whatever, that's beside the point, or why it was done. Just 2 tons for that bomb took out that building and killed 153 people in that neighborhood. This was in the vicinity, I think, of... You can do a quick Google search on how many tons of ammonium nitrate in the Beirut one, but I heard it was in the thousands, and if it was close to like the high 2s, then you can see why it's basically taken out a 5-kilometer radius in that town. Every standing building in that town has basically lost its windows.
Yeah. Ammonium nitrate is obviously a chemical compound. I'm not going to get into all the technical stuff, but what I've gathered is that it's used in agriculture as a high nitrogen fertilizer. It's obviously highly combustible. I don't know. Science and chemistry was not my forte.
Let's have a look. How much ammonium nitrate and bomb in Beirut?
But the question's got to be asked. Like, how did that start? How did that fire start with to begin with? Like, what caused that? Like, what was the first thing? And then obviously, if all that ammonium nitrate was stored there, then that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, and I mean,
and there's this thing about fireworks factory, stored fireworks rather. Like, what's going on? Like, why is there always these
a storage of fireworks
that suddenly go off? I don't know. It's so weird.
Yeah.
It's just
there it is, man. What caused such a big explosion? This is on New York Times. According to the Lebanese government, about 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate fertilizer. And when you compare that to the Oklahoma building, it's just 2 tons.
I know.
You can see why that's more than a building, right?
Yeah, they got all these new images
phenomenal
of
amount
the
of space.
Damage caused from the blast and
that bite out of the port area, just huge.
Yeah,
totally restructured the shoreline.
Now, I know that Lebanon and Beirut has obviously had conflict and has got a tumultuous history in terms of... I don't know the full history, but...
why this is so different, because this wasn't even, supposedly not even a conflict-related explosion. Do you know the story behind it?
No, I don't.
Well, let me tell what I do know.
Yeah.
Okay, and, if I've got a couple of the details wrong, you're welcome to let us know on Facebook or whatever, and then we'll re-record for later. But what I believe happened was a Russian tanker came into the port 7 years ago carrying this cargo, and the ship itself had issues, and it had issues in terms of major repair required to the ship.
Right.
It couldn't get or pay for the repair, and it was running low on money, I believe, in some way, and it couldn't leave the port because of the issues that the ship had.
Right.
And the owner and the captain and the stevedores on board, or the ship staff, they just abandoned it and flew home. And they left it in port. They just went, okay, and we're out. And they couldn't even afford to pay the port authority to keep the ship there, so they just abandoned it. So, right, it's yours. See ya. Keys in the ignition. We're off. And so 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate were then taken by the Lebanese, because they are Lebanese, aren't they, in Beirut? I think so, forgive me. But by the people of that city, and put into storage nearby. And over the following 6 to 7 years, they wrote letters to their own magistrates and court judges and people in power and authority to go, hey, we've got to do something with this. This is not really safe to store it here.
Yep.
And 7 years later, if it's, who can argue how it started? But if it's possible that a fire started in the place where the storage was, that would then very quickly ignite and become the explosion it was.
Wow.
But it was a bomb, essentially, right? And metaphorically, it was a bomb waiting to happen.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you have that much tonnage, if that's the correct term.
That much energy potential.
Energy stored in one place, and the potential, like I said, it's a disaster waiting to happen. And
that's what I'm talking about, with dirty energy. Sometimes I feel like I'm just ready to go. No, but a lot of people have been harmed by this, and the whole city's been destroyed.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
it's actually really sad.
It's just a real tragic situation, because I'm looking at a picture of Beirut, and it's got it looks like a city skyline, but it looks quite beautiful. I'm sure it's a beautiful town.
One of the things that shocks me about looking at the footage now is the initial explosion just seems so far away. For New Zealanders, it's like being on the Harbour Bridge and looking at something happening in St Heliers, and then suddenly the shockwave hits you.
Yeah, yeah.
So
wow. And apparently, I don't know the full details, but apparently there were quite a few other explosions around the world around the same time.
Really?
Yeah. So, but
what do you think the connection is?
Well,
if there is any?
That's the thing. These days, if you're all just questioning what's been presented to us in the mainstream media, you're always looking for that conspiratorial angle. At least if you. You sort of go, well, what's really happening? What's the connection? And I think that's just maybe how we're kind of wired up now we are anyway, just to sort of look at all the other perspectives and stuff. And I mean, it's the whole thing with, do masks work or don't they? So, and I think the problem is nowadays is that you can just switch on your device, your laptop, go to any platform, and there's so much information, and you just see a video with someone who's really convincing, go, you know what, masks are crap, and this is why, and they'll give you all this scientific back, and you go, yeah, that's right, I told you. But then you can just switch on another video where they say, guess what, here's the scientific research, and that masks do work, and blah, 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 blah. And if you're not a researcher, if you're not an expert, if you I got a good understanding of fitness and of specifically training, exercise, science, and all. I've got 30 years experience. So if you come and tell me something about exercise science or how a muscle works or correct biomechanics or anything, program, I can pretty much tell if you're telling shit or... Because I have the experience and the wisdom and the knowledge, and I've been training all my life. Yeah. So I'm an expert in maybe that field, but if you're just, okay, this is what I want to believe, it's all a scam, it's all a pandemic, then you're going to find the supporting information. And I think the moral of the story is, like, finding the truth is just so hard. And I was watching Brian Rose and David Icke 5, so that's 5. There's so much information there now.
Big video they've done.
Yeah, and they've had millions of hits and streaming and stuff. But I think David's right. He says if you just confuse everyone so much, you'll never know what the real truth is. You have to really, cut through all the crap. And I think this just, once again, it gets people divided. And there's this whole division of, hey, this is our freedom of rights. We want to protest, and then there are people, hey, what about our safety? There's a virus out there, like, it's just so... It's been draining, man. I think...
Meanwhile, Sweden's doing just fine.
Yeah, and it's just crazy because life is normal here in New Zealand.
Yeah.
But our cousins, brothers and sisters over in Aussie, their life is just not normal, in Melbourne especially. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're still under...
house arrest.
Yeah, the harshest lockdown they've experienced since this all began.
Yeah, I got to say though, right, and I don't want to look like I'm flipping sides here, but their lockdown's not much of a lockdown. I mean, people are still just getting out and doing shit.
Are they? Yeah. But apparently they've got curfews and stuff.
Well, okay, so they've got a curfew.
And there's,
New Zealand's curfew.
Fines and...
Oh, sure. Yeah. But New Zealand's curfew was really just pretty much limited by what time the supermarket closed, wasn't it? Because we were pretty much not allowed to go out at all, apart from during the day reasonable elements for exercise.
Yeah.
No, and I'm not flipping sides, and I'm not. No. I actually really feel for them, and I wish that our quote unquote lockdown was more like theirs. But they are like the last holdout for freedom, and they're resisting, right? And so of course they're going to have it shoved in their face again and again until they break. New Zealand broke like that. We just broke. Oh, okay. Yeah, lockdown, done. When? Tomorrow. Okay, fine. We just were like, whatever.
What are you trying to say?
And we were just weak-willed and didn't resist. And
compliant.
And we complied.
We will not acquiesce.
We did, though.
We did, yeah. But I think, and I hope I'm correct in saying this, that people had the best intentions behind that. They were genuinely concerned about the safety and the well-being of other people. Hey, let's play our part. Like if I go out there and... Yeah. I think that's right.
I think New Zealanders' approach was pretty pragmatic too. Yeah. Because equally, if ours had dragged on, you'd have had some really pissed off people. And so we're like, all right, 4 weeks, lockdown done. And we're good? We're good now? We are good now, right? Yep. Get on with your life. Okay. And so that's what we're doing.
Let me pose this. If we had to go back to another state, we're in, what is it, level 1? I always get mixed up.
No, we're in level 1 now.
Yeah, we're in level 1. Okay. What if we went back to another level 2 or level 3 scenario? How do you think the Kiwi, New Zealand public would react? Do you think they would go...
Well, I think they've proven to us already that they're willing to go there and that we're pretty compliant. I think level 2 is not much of a big deal, but level
but the gyms will be closed again, won't they?
Sure, but a level 3 type of lockdown, which would really devastate businesses, because businesses, and again, I sound like I'm flipping sides, but if we go to level 2, businesses should have a contingency for that. There should be like some kind of, okay, well, if we maintain 2 meters distance and you phone ahead to pick up your latte and life can continue. Because none of us want to be back home locked inside.
No.
We will all, level 2, if you recall, for you and I, or at least for me, and I can't speak on your behalf, Rob, but life felt pretty normal under level 2, right? I mean, weren't we here at level 2? We were in Browne St Cafe at level 2 already.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember back.
Like,
I think it seems like it's in the past. We've seemed to have moved on and forgotten about it.
Yeah.
It's in the rearview mirror.
Level 2 is not a big deal. You could gather amongst a certain number of friends. You and I counted as a group of less than 10, so we had no problem.
Yeah.
You know.
But because we've been through the process, we now understand a bit more of what it involves, and we're kind of, it's like getting hit in the head. You didn't see that coming, but if you get hit in the head again, you go, oh, okay, I know what it feels like. But I just do wonder, because recently they've been talking about not if, but when we go back to level. So for me, that's sort of programming the public again, going, okay, this is going to happen, and it's probably going to happen soonish. So we're just, that whole, we called it, like at the beginning of it, how we're going to go to level 4 no matter what, blah, blah. This is how it's going to play out.
And I've been saying to my friends and to Bridget, if they're saying that there's another wave coming,
then it will be.
There will be.
Yeah. So, and I'm just thinking, well, far out. Like,
because
why?
you heard that there was a sellout during the week in New Zealand. And we don't have to wear face masks, right? We're all walking around face mask free and have been.
No, it's not mandated.
Well, we've basically been face mask free right from the beginning of this process.
But there was talk about it being
because at the time when COVID-19 first came out, they were sort of arguing, oh, maybe you don't need to wear a face mask. So our entire lockdown was face mask free compared to what's going on overseas. So I think if you have a conspiracy bone in your body, that says to you, well, we need to get in line with the rest of the world and start covering our faces as well, because the whole world is.
We ain't having it.
Australians don't like it. David Icke doesn't like it in the UK. The US doesn't like it, but they're all towing the line, right? You hear stories of people walking their dog and you're on the other side of the road and someone says, put your damn face mask on.
I can't see, like, if they suddenly turn around and go, okay, it's compulsory, it's mandated. I reckon there's going to be a big percentage that are not going to do it because they're too informed now. There's too much information out there going, hang on a minute, do they really work? I mean...
Well, my worry is that it's the opposite of what you said. Okay, so I want it to be what you said. We're too informed, and we've realised because we did an entire COVID-19 pandemic without face masks, didn't we? When you think about it, this is a fresh idea I'm just realising now. We did an entire pandemic without one.
Yeah.
The rest of the world is doing their pandemic with one, and you go, well, we actually performed amongst the best in the world, so do we really need one? And yet, Dr. Ashley Bloomfield has said face masks are good. And he's saying you should prepare for them and let's get ready for the next round. Could be sometime soon.
Yeah.
Well, so this week, New Zealand pharmacies and supermarkets sold out of face masks instantly. So this week was a sellout week. The work I do, my job provides me with a selection of things like that anyway. I've got them sitting in my car. I've got them if I need them. And I don't use them currently because we don't currently need them. Well, I'll wear it in my professional capacity, because in my professional capacity I represent a company. When I see our customers and when I do our presentations with them, I will toe the line as per the request of my employer, because I'm grateful for the money the employer pays me on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
But in my day-to-day capacity, I'm unlikely to acquiesce. I will go places and do things and go, no, not doing that. But in my professional capacity, I'm all for it if that's what's required, not only of the company, but also if the country asks us to do that.
Yeah.
I guess I will think twice about it in my personal capacity if it becomes an issue of breaking a law, because I'm not out to do that.
Yeah. Here's my issue, kind of coming from a sovereign being who, and if you're like-minded, where you feel that what you do with your body and the decisions you make surrounding what you want to do in life should be yours.
Yeah.
Okay, so you start from that point and you go, that's how it should be. I believe everyone should have the freedom to choose how and what they do in life, as long as it's not imposing or hurting anyone else. So I won't impose my beliefs, my way of thinking, if you don't want, you should be free.
100%. Like, for example, right now, if you're listening to this, it's your choice.
Yeah, so absolutely your choice. So that let's get that straight off the bat. But here's my thing. If it's when something is imposed on you where you have to do something, where you go, okay, and you can make the decision. If you say, okay, that sounds rational, that sounds completely rational, I will accept that, then that's fine. But if you don't, then sort of question what aspect of yourself is resisting that and why. I think it's a good way of sort of doing a self-inquiry. But here's something interesting that David Icke brought up, just to throw that out there. He said,
in the Rose Icke 5
Yeah. Well, he said, I'm not wearing a mask because it's a symbol of control. It's telling your subconscious mind that someone has power over you. Right. And I thought that really interesting.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, it's not just a physical thing. It's covering not just a physical thing, but what is it saying subconsciously if you're resisting that? Is that your sovereign beingness sort of, what do you call it? Going against that and fighting against that.
So let me just clarify if I understand you. What is that saying subconsciously if you're resisting? Resisting wearing a mask?
If you're aware of that.
Well, what do you think it's saying subconsciously?
Or if you're acquiescing to it and going, I'm just going to wear a mask and I'm just going to follow what everyone else is going to do. But subconsciously you're going, hang on a minute, this doesn't feel right. Then there's sort of a conflict within your own being. But I just thought it interesting. It's like it's showing. It's also, it's like you're covering your face, so you're covering your ability to communicate and speak and sort of and all your facial subtleties of who you are as a human being are also covered. So you can go. There's different layers to it, isn't
the
there?
rabbit hole there is that it takes us down a path of dehumanizing and reducing our individuality to just one of the masses of mask-wearing, faceless people.
Yeah.
If you become one of the faceless, one of the unidentified.
I remember David saying in this interview with Brian Rose, he was wanting to go into a store without a mask, but masks were, I think, compulsory for this store. If you wanted to go and shop in the store, you had to wear a mask. Okay. But you could also order outside. You know how they have the till outside and you can ask and blah, blah, blah.
That's right, because in countries that are still really ravaged by this pandemic, there are alternatives, right, like outside shopping stuff.
You can maintain,
No, but that's a lot of that's been set up,
But here's the crazy thing. So he's waiting here to buy some, I don't know what it was, some bananas, it doesn't matter.
Sure.
But these two women were going in the store and they were fully masked up, so they could go in, fine. But literally just a few feet away next door was a whole table of like a dozen people.
Yeah.
And he could tell that they weren't all related with no masks. And he was telling the shopkeeper, hang on, what's going on here? Like, literally, why are they not wearing masks? And yet they're all close together in like a situation where we are now in a cafe or outside bar or whatever.
Yeah,
and he just was just shaking his head going, can't you see the stupid? And the shopkeeper said,
was that
crazy.
That Ike's point or Rose's point?
That was Ike's point.
That was Ike's point.
He was explaining the ludicrousy of just like, okay. And so, I'm sure there are many examples of that. So it does. You're just going, well, what's going on? Like, and I think, it just gets so confusing. But apparently, here's the the latest update in New Zealand, 100 days of no community transmission.
And in that time, no requirement to wear masks.
Yeah.
Think about that.
So-
Let that sink in.
So what's going to cause the second wave? Is it because our borders aren't fully opened, where there's still restrictions and quarantines and stuff to stop the
And
community transmission?
we still have coronavirus in the country.
23 cases active, and,
Gotcha,
and they're all in
gotcha.
quarantine, so
Yeah.
they're not even affecting people. They're not,
Yeah. There
sauntering around.
I think this goes to answer your question earlier. In order to get people to acquiesce to this, they would have to tell us that there was community transmission again, right? There would have to be, yes, there's documented cases of community transmission.
It's flared up again because of
there are some hotspots in the Boy Scout group, and you're going to have to, and the old folks home, you're going to all have to wear your masks again. I'm Dr. Ashley Bloomfield for the government. Yeah,
And they're going to send out some drones and they're going to, you must comply,
exterminate.
exterminate.
Yeah, that's right. I wonder if I got my exterminate one here.
Have you?
No, I haven't.
Exhale!
Yeah, that was my
Did he say exhale?
He said exhale. That's my Dalek relaxation tape. If you want to just relax doing breathing with Daleks, it goes like this.
Exhale!
Wow.
Next!
That does not give me a sense of calm and tranquility. That
Really? What
at
about
all.
this one?
Your tension has been exterminated!
Somehow I don't think it's going to make it into the self-help meditation download sector.
Well, if you want to get hold of it, it's free on YouTube. Dalek breathing techniques.
Wow, man. As the baby's screaming, let's forget it, baby's screaming.
Yeah.
Far out, man. I'm just very grateful that we are. I mean, one thing is, I am grateful that we can do this right here. And every time I go to the gym or to the pools or just get outside and just life is normal. But I can't help but think that, remember right at the beginning is everyone was saying that it will never go back to normal. There'll be a new normal. Do you remember that?
Yeah. It feels
You go
like the
right
old normal,
back.
that, doesn't it?
It'll never. But here's the thing. I'm thinking, hang on a minute. If they were saying it'll never get back, this is the new normal, so it's new. It's not the way it was before. Then they must have known that was always going to be the plan to make it this
they
way.
must have always been pushing for that.
Yeah, because why wouldn't they say, oh, it could go back to normal, just the way things were before?
Yeah.
So I'm very suspect about that because that was right at the beginning. Things will never be the same, and the things that are always changing anyway. But wow.
So, what is it about October that is the big mystery? Because, excuse me, it's a nice ginger ale they gave me. There has been for a few months some sort of discussion amongst the woo-woo folk that something's going to happen in October. What's astrologically? I'm looking at that because you brought up a chart there.
Yeah, I did.
October's it's looking interesting.
This is actually the chart for the election day, November 3rd. Not our election day, of course, but everything seems to be centered about November 3rd. We can talk about that a little later. I've always had a fascination with astrology. I've just had a fascination with the solar system, the planets, and the cosmic energies. And I mean, look, I have a fascination with just gazing into the stars at night and going interstellar on it. Mm-hmm. But you got to wonder. Yeah. Okay. So basically, I was just curious to know, from an astrological point of view, what the major players were, what the aspects of certain planets were when this all began. And I'm not an astrology expert by no means, but from what the astrologists are saying is that basically there are 3 planets, which are Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto, that have sort of been very, if you know anything about astrology, have been very close together in terms of the degrees, their positioning.
Right, and they're not normally.
I mean, I don't know if it's not normally, but basically, astrologically speaking, just with the energies of these planets, it's going to cause certain energies and sort of a cosmic climate, which has been the theme throughout this year. Whenever this whole, you think, well, what's so special about 2020? Well, you look at the skies and go, okay, this is what's happening. And because that,
Right.
with the aspect with kind of new moons and the alignments, they're thinking that in October, that's when it's going to be back at its peak. Well, that's why they're saying, hang on a minute, this is what happened at the beginning, first wave, second wave, looks like it's going to happen. Something's going to flare up again. Yeah.
Well, it was astrologically, if I'm correct from what I've been listening to, it's a time of massive change, right? So 2020 is a time of massive change and
challenge.
And disruption.
Yeah.
And that's why the UN Agenda 2021 was always picked to have an agenda of change in place by 2021. They've kicked that back to 2030 because I don't think they believe they can achieve it.
Right.
But if you believe, as I do, that those powers planning those things have access to astrological ancient information, which historically they've always used, then of course they're going to pick 2021 for that.
Yeah, and look,
but I don't think it's working out for them.
It's an actual science, of course, because they don't fire satellites and rockets and out to Mars or whatever on any given day. They got to figure out like the right aspects, where the planets are, and etc. So.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I know what you mean, but we are talking about two different kinds of things there, because you're talking about the scientific nature of space travel.
Yeah.
Even to the moon, things have to be lined up so that you can make it.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about how over thousands of years,
sure,
organizations have utilized astrology.
Yeah.
And consulted, the mystics.
Oh.
Okay, so I consider the ancient old families that run the world to still use those occult practices.
Yep.
And so because they also run the UN, in my opinion, if you didn't think I believe that, I kind of do, then they're going to utilize that information.
Sure. Yep.
So hence the name Agenda 21, the UN Agenda 21, is perfectly timed for all the disruption that they expect to take place in 2020. The new Agenda 2030 is an acknowledgement that they probably can't get the kinds of changes in place that they want by that time, so they've pushed it back a bit.
Sure.
But at least to say, if you had something called Agenda 21 for major changes in the world to take place by 2021, something freaking crazy would have to happen in 2020,
and they
wouldn't it?
say that this is just the beginning.
And so we're talking about October, and what you had brought up showed a major alignment by November for that election.
Let me just explain something. So it's like the planetary energies. I'm actually just checking astrograph astrology.
Right.
And so here, for example, Moon in opposition with Saturn. Remember, Saturn was Pluto, and what was the other one? Can't remember now. But
it was Scorpio, wasn't it?
No.
Oh, sorry, planets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all about energies. So the planetary energies are polarized. Outer events stimulate their interaction. Integration is a challenge. So because the Moon symbolizes instinctive awareness and Saturn is a planet of restriction and structure, when they are square or opposite, there is a potential for conflict and emotions and you've heard of retrogrades and stuff. So and I believe also, just to throw this in there, November 3rd, which is the US election date, they're saying that it's the same aspects of planets that happened back in 2000, where remember the election, you didn't know who won?
Right.
So they think that's going to happen again. So we don't know who's going to actually get across the line until a few weeks later. And I've already noticed Trump's really concerned about the mail-in ballots.
In Florida.
He's saying that could throw things, and you won't know who's going to win until, because they've got to count up, and then it might
Florida
rest on one state.
All the elderly folk in Florida would vote for him.
Why is that?
Because he represents the right-wing government.
Right. Yeah.
And the elderly folk are not into that woke stuff.
The woke stuff.
The woke left stuff.
So don't be surprised. I mean, I don't know. This is just what the planets are saying, that it won't be clear cut on election day. You know how they can say, yep, it's definitely Trump, or who's the other guy? Biden.
That old senile fart. Yeah.
So, and it's
You'd
weird,
think in
man,
a country of 330 million people
that they could,
they could come up with something better than Biden to oppose
I know,
Trump.
it astounds
Seriously.
me. It does astound me.
There are some incredibly
talented
dynamic,
and gifted,
talented people in the Democratic Party.
there
Why
are.
aren't they using them?
Yeah,
Why aren't they putting them forward?
It's
like put up a loser. Seriously, here's your loser. Go for it. Come on.
And I sometimes I have the feeling that elections are kind of rigged anyway, but
Sure.
as much as I don't want them to be. But so that's my prediction, and that's what the astrology is saying for November 3rd. So I reckon around that time we're going to have to do another episode, seeing if that happens.
Well, if we're doing one once a week anyway, I'm sure we will.
Hey, yeah. Wow, that's a good prediction into the future.
Yeah, once a week podcast.
Yeah.
I'll see if we can ramp up that frequency. So, what else is on our agenda?
That's a really good question. So we've covered...
Oh, yeah. So
we covered all the sort of the world stuff.
I think we have. I think it's time for Rob's Foundational Truths.
Foundational Truths of Living, brought to you by Reality Hub.
And Browne St Cafe.
Yeah, I just wrote, what have I done here? I've just wrote some, I call them truths, but just ways of living. So I've written down 10 truths or ways or ideas, if you like, of living a life according to your values and according to living life sort of on purpose, with some sort of direction, some foundational truths. You know, some people have religion, some people have
drugs.
They do.
Some people have their corporate culture.
Yes.
No, there are different ways of living that you ascribe to. Some people just have family values.
Values is the word of
yeah.
morals, values, and remember last week we talked about rituals and routines. So
Yes,
this
indeed
goes
we did.
straight into this. So, and I've listed them, and
It's on the blog too, on our site.
Yeah, I
Cool.
posted this on Rob's blog, and I mean this is just my list, and you can have your own list, and some of these may resonate. You might go, yeah, that sounds really good. I do that as well. But I've just used my sort of terminology in it. Well, it's not my terminology. These are words that you all would have come across before, but I've just listed 10 sort of, foundation truths. And the first one is your authentic self.
Yeah. Tell me more.
Okay, I will.
Okay.
So what does that mean? When you say authentic self, what does that mean to you? Well, to embody the truth of who you really are. Your beingness. So it's really the quest, which is something which I have been on since I can remember. The quest to know thyself. So it means basically listening to your own inner voice and your own inner guidance. So you can just sort of meditate on that and go, what does it mean to live authentically? You know, are you living according to other people's values of how you should be living? Or, are you denying who you really are?
I see it as how I feel about myself and how I think and feel, and choosing the things that I wish to do in my life without being under the pressure of another influence.
Yes.
Be it friends, society, the way I should look or behave.
Maybe you didn't want to get married and you were pressured into it, something like that. Or maybe you're in the wrong, we've talked about this so much. You're in the job because, I thought it would give me this sort of lifestyle, but you know what? I actually hate this job and I should be doing something that speaks to my heart. So it's just, I know this is as our friend George Cavassalis would say, this is going in deep within, journeying within and looking at your bits and shining a light on it.
Yeah, we don't always want to look at our bits.
No. Yeah.
True.
Well, I know. Depends what bits you're talking about.
Yeah, okay. Let's look at self-acceptance, number 2.
Okay, so this is a big one.
Yeah.
This is to accept every aspect of your being. There you go, all your bits, the good and the bad. So, this is your dark,
bad behaviors
and light.
Yep.
Yeah. And accepting it all and then integrating it and going, you know what, that's just who I am, and I'm not going to pretend anymore that I'm this whatever person that everyone wants me to be. This is just who I am. I'm living from that truth.
Oh, man.
And then when you have self-acceptance, you have this sense of knowing, who you are. And I guess it's a self-esteem and confidence as well. an inner strength.
Yeah.
As well. So you're not relying on external forces or what people think of you anymore. You accept yourself. I don't need to have someone validate me.
Can I tell you a story about something that happened this week?
Well, you are anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I was an auctioneer this week.
Wow, you have so many roles.
I know. Well, this one they asked me to do a charity auctioneering thing.
Yeah.
And we raised $19,000 for Youthline,
Wow.
which was really cool. And it was a work thing. And at my work, we were given the opportunity to attend a quiz night, which was in aid of fundraising. But also, people put up prizes that you could bid on. So people did crazy things, like gave themselves away as an assistant for the day.
Right.
Or offered themselves up as your babysitter for the night so you could go out, and you'd bid on that. And we all came up with really interesting sort of prizes and stuff. But I got there and I was the auctioneer. I was the person trying to, raise the money for these by getting people to bid really loud.
Sure.
And it's nerve-wracking sometimes doing this sort of stuff in front of people that you know and in front of a group of your work colleagues. But they kind of know me as the one willing to do that.
Yeah.
But this number 2 here, we're talking about self-acceptance. I decided to accept that evening that I was going to be the cheeky, if not naughty, auctioneer man, the auctioneer. I can't remember the name of an auctioneer, but the person who did it. And so I ripped into everyone that night during the auctions. I said, sold to the lady dressed like a Christmas tree. I said, you better bid high on this one, because if you don't, this one's been put up by your boss. You won't get a bonus. And, and I just made fun of everyone and ripped into them. And I was kind of dark, and the humor was dark. And I just decided to accept that for this moment, that was how I was going to be. And I was going to be okay with that instead of worried. Yeah. And you know what? It really, we made so much more money for the kids because everyone found that sense of dark humor. So it sort of let off a blow-off valve. People laughed at it and went, yeah, great, cool. And they had a good time. And normally I wouldn't accept the darker side of myself. Normally I'd be like Mr. Goody Two-Shoes in front of my work colleagues and, hey, let's do the best we can. Yeah. But instead I was like, come on, do the best you can, because, otherwise you poor ugly suckers aren't going to show us that you're any good, kind of thing. And I let it be a little bit dark, and it just went really well. And I thought to myself, you've got to accept yourself in all aspects sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you saying about an acting role, it was for a play, how you had to play that dark character.
You won't believe it, Rob, but I was going to mention that, but I thought I can't really tie this in, but you just did.
Yes.
I felt like that character that night.
You accessed that part of you.
I accessed that dark... I played Jack the Ripper in that play, for those listening.
Yeah.
And it was an hour and a half of playing a dark character who was super confident. Yeah. And I felt aspects of myself sitting there feeling really confident, going, this is sort of like putting on a mask, but the mask is sort of also at the same time accepting an aspect of yourself.
Yeah. I know, it's challenging sometimes to look at the dark aspects or your shadow self. Yeah. Because of what it might reveal. And you may not be ready to do that as well.
You may not wish to reveal that you're that sort of asshole.
Yeah.
Or that you're that sort of, like, even it can be dark to be seen as someone who is willing to be powerful. Because that can be dark, right?
Yeah. It's, I mean, there's many shades of that.
Yeah.
But it comes back down to my next foundation truth, which is balance, because there's the yin and yang of life. So that the balance is a harmonious balance of all the levels of your being. So physical, spiritual, mental, emotion, and I've put in here equanimity, inner peace. So it's a balance of all those aspects of your being, and when you can get that balance, then you're not sort of leaning to one side or the other, where you're just a really dark person or an evil person. Although obviously that energy exists, and there are people that embody that for whatever reason. But if you're balanced, then you can sort of you just have a better handle on things. So it's once again, it's about integration. So accepting both sides. That both sides exist within everyone. You're perfect as a human being and totally imperfect. It's kind of a paradox, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think there's a difference between negatively expressing dark and positively expressing dark. So if you accept that you are two aspects to your being, light and dark, and you want however you express yourself, via through natural light or natural dark, to support you on your journey in life, then a negative expression of either of those two can actually not serve you in the long run. Light could be used to not serve you, to actually ruin you and not have you be an authentic part of yourself, because you can overplay the love and mung beings and the love and
I
light
knew you were going to bring that up.
and the butterflies and rainbows. You can overplay that.
Or being the perfect parent or being the perfect employee and you do nothing wrong and you're just so amazing. And
if you block your dark, that's got to come out somewhere, and it could come out really negatively.
Yeah, and I think we as human beings tend to innately trust people that are sort of real, that we can pick up on it.
Yeah.
Like if people are fake, you can kind of pick up on it unless you are totally unaware.
Yeah.
And I think because it then reflects back to us, hey, we're all just human, we're all imperfect. If that guy or girl is making mistakes, if that leader is showing fear and indecisiveness, then it means it gives us permission to feel that way as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of like that.
I remember George Kavaslis talking about if you're in a public speaking situation and you're a leader, to not have an element of narcissism would be quite strange, because to be a leader, you have to be narcissistic enough to go, follow me. Everybody, follow me. Yeah. Trust what I'm saying you should do. So then how do you, so people could call that a negative thing or a dark thing.
Well,
but then how do you positively express that? But you must, to be a leader, you must have a positive expression of a narcissistic trait in order to pull people together and get the best out of a group.
Yeah, well that's
a positive expression of a negative thing.
That's being true to yourself and knowing that that's who you are. You are a leader, and embracing that and not making excuses.
Yeah.
And people all around you will see that and sense that. Well, you are the leader, like that's your role at this particular point in time. So that's accepting that as well. I think people, as I said, generally know when you're faking it. So, so that's about just being real.
Let's look at number 4. Can I have this one?
Yep.
Number 4 on your list is self-love, the ability to be complete, to know you lack nothing, to love all aspects, no matter what you experience, no matter what experience you may currently be in. Internal expression versus external gratification. Self-love.
Yeah.
You are enough.
Yeah, I think we've talked about that way back in our early podcasts.
Yeah.
And some people will do everything they can to not feel like they're enough, and that's probably programmed into them early on in life.
That's something that I battle.
Me too, absolutely.
Do you? Yeah. And sometimes you've got to look to gratefulness to help you feel that you are enough. I mean, I can come out of this recording today, jump in the car, drive home, and if I let my thoughts go to a not so good place, like where am I in my life? Am I not? I could go into a place where I don't feel like I'm enough, into a place that takes me out of self-love. Yeah. Or I could go down the grateful path. Man, I just had a great catch up with Rob. Food was superb. Good podcast. Looking forward to the week ahead. I am enough.
Yeah.
And that is fulfillment in itself. I mean, it depends where my thoughts take me.
Yeah, that's having a perspective on things as well, whatever your current perspective might be in that reality.
Yeah.
Whether it's positive or negative. But yeah, self-love is a big one. That's a real big foundation, because if you were lacking that in whatever form, or you don't feel good enough, then man, you'll be searching. I know I did. You were most of your life looking for external measures of love, of saying I'm good enough. And we do it, whether it's at school or in social environments. How do I measure up? How do I measure up to these people? And if you have never felt real self-love, then man, it's hard to know what that really feels like. But I think, that's probably if you feel into the energy, that's probably the deepest you can possibly go if you come from a place of that you are just love, complete, at the very essence. I'm not saying, from a formless spiritual aspect that you are, without the labels, without the other mind stuff.
Right.
The mind that gets in the way, But I'm not talking about you must always just practice love and it's all love and light. I'm talking about
that's just, that's not even
beyond
balance,
all
right?
that. Beyond all that. Your infinite being, I guess, which is part of the list, actually.
I've got my mind on the next one, reality management, because, if you know anyone that ever had a really hard time in a certain environment, managing your reality is exceptionally difficult to do. Sometimes the cards are stacked in your favor, and sometimes the odds are stacked against you. Reality management in an environment when you're being bullied or you're up against day-to-day difficulties can be very challenging, which takes me back to thinking about some people's experiences at school, right?
Oh, yeah.
But why don't you read out what you've got there for number 5, reality management.
So this is a bit like living life on purpose, and you're taking full responsibility for your life on every level. So let that sink in. You're taking responsibility.
Yeah.
So it's not up to anyone else. It's up to you, no matter what your reality happens to be in that particular
Even if
moment.
you're taking shit from other people and it doesn't seem to be your fault.
Oh, I'm a victim.
You accept it.
My life is shit. I'll never be successful. All that sort of stuff. Okay? Until you get real and accept responsibility for it. Oh, but I was in an abusive relationship. Oh, but I was picked on at school. Oh, but I lost. Yeah, we get it. Yep.
Yeah, it's not been easy.
That's part of managing the reality and getting real about it. And then this is hard stuff.
That's
I'm
about
no
establishing a
expert on
baseline,
this. I'm continually working on this every single day, and that's part of the management side of it. So, which is the choices, the actions, the thoughts, beliefs that actually construct your reality. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. You could leave here today and think, oh, my life's a disaster. And you list the reasons, or you make a choice and go, no, hang on a minute, I'm going to be grateful for this. So that's reality management. It's the actual how you think and then therefore what you do every day. So it's really that simple.
Well,
I choose to do this because this is going to have a positive influence on my life.
I choose to curb the way I automatically respond and react to things. As I practice over and over again my ability to react and start reacting differently.
Yeah.
It really shits me when I repeat the same problems. I really get irritated with myself and I go, I've done it again. But that's reality management, managing how and to try and remember and to sort of do a note to self. When this happens, don't set this up to fail again. Try and react differently.
Yeah.
And if it does fail, respond with grace and dignity instead of how you did.
Yeah, and you've got to take ownership. Only you can do it.
Yeah.
Because you can't control what the other person's doing. Your friends, your family,
if that's
your
an aspect,
your
for
partner.
sure,
Yeah. I mean, you can only respond or react as you say, as you always do, or be aware enough to change your reaction and take ownership from it. So this is heavy. This is the heavy lifting of life.
but this is what leads to personal growth.
Yeah.
And that's number 6.
Yeah,
personal growth.
Which is the journey of always evolving and growing. So, the ability to continually learn and evolve, to know thyself, to become a better version of self. And then you've got to have curiosity and be open-minded.
That's the key, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because personal growth is continually learning and evolving.
Yeah.
You can't do that without being curious and open-minded. I mean, do you know people who have just stopped being curious and open-minded? They're done. They're done evolving.
What do they call that?
I've learned everything I need.
Yeah, when they don't allow any... They're set in their ways, aren't they?
Set in their ways, obstinate, stubborn, fixed
No, this is the way it
patterns.
is, and that's the way it's always going to be, and blah. Yeah.
But I can assure them, because life is always evolving. If they stop evolving, then there is a giant Indiana Jones Temple of Doom ball rolling down a track to them pretty soon, and they're stuck in that rut, and they're going to just get flattened by it and be surprised that reality wasn't what they thought it was, because they weren't open-minded enough to see a different aspect of it.
And I believe that we are all on that path of spiritual growth, personal evolution, whatever you want to call it. That's what we're doing on this planet.
This is
as spiritual beings. This is the classroom.
This physical experience is our spiritual growth.
Yeah, and we have different themes and challenges that we want to address, hence, and learn and grow through those challenges. And another thing is also you've got to be aware of your ego when it comes to this, because if you, often it's resistance with the ego when you close off or are not curious and you don't accept other beliefs because you want to defend the ego. The ego sort of jumps in the way. That's what I've realised.
I've come to realise that people who get egotistical about their identity. They want
to be right, in other words.
They are actually lacking self-love, number 4.
Yeah.
And they're lacking a sense of that they're enough. I've met people that have said to me, mate, I mean, I'm so this and that, and I'm now on a six-figure income and so on.
Right.
And they've said things to me like this. And I have also watched their giant ego be the tool and the instrument that expresses this information. And I look at them and I just think, you poor sad person. You need to say these things because your ego is pushing out these words at us and communicating, aren't I big and important? Because really deep down you don't think you're very big and important.
Exactly.
And you don't have a sense of being enough.
Yeah. Well said. Yep. I think we've all met people like that or know people like that.
There's one person I have in mind who is very dear to me as because in his heart he's actually a really good soul, and I've watched him lose everything. I don't think this is someone you know, but someone
lose everything, material wise, possession wise, or
I've watched him put his life in danger, nearly lose his family relationships. And really fall from grace from a very high paid job to being out of work and have substance addiction and problems and other things,
which is a distraction of looking at your bits.
So I've watched that person say things like, hey man, my life's really great and you should, and I've got such a high income and stuff, and at that time I didn't have any sort of level of income that could compete. But I sat and humbly went, okay, man, sure, whatever. Yeah. And now my life's changed and improved, and I think to myself, never would I say things like that to others, because it would really just be an indication of huge lack in my life.
Yeah.
And it's a sign that someone's suffering inside.
Yeah, and that's the big boulder coming down at you with your Indiana Jones analogy. To flatten you and to kind of humble you and go, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
Because, we all can go from hero to zero in any moment.
Those boulders can have different labels on them too.
Yeah. All that stuff
Humility.
is impermanent, and that's what I get back to when you've got a foundation of self-love and knowing who you are. That stuff's all the superfluous stuff.
Yeah.
And the fame and the fortune can just disappear overnight, and then you're just going, okay, so what's all behind all that?
Yeah.
Who am I really? Which brings us to soul purpose. So this is a bit like your superpower, to express and imprint your unique talents and gifts, to be a positive life force in this world, energy and motion. Soul purpose. So this is, what was your mission to come here on planet Earth? Right?
You know what?
And it doesn't have to be, it's to bring about world peace. It doesn't have to be huge. It's just, it could be, I'm going to be the best parent, or I'm going to be the best version of myself, or I'm going to dedicate my life to discovering who I, it's what am I a leader? Am I a communicator? You can break it down into sort of the role.
Yeah.
But what's your soul purpose?
I think I've had some personal revelation about this recently.
Oh, cool.
my soul purpose may have, and I don't know, but it may have something to do with what you've got there at number 2, self-acceptance.
Yeah.
And I say that because when I reflect on some of the awful challenges that I've endured in my younger time, one of the themes there was, for example, being not accepted at school and lack of friends and so forth, and an aspect of verbal name calling and bullying that I endured in a private boys' school. That I think to myself, that all of that theme is about accepting who you are, and when you weren't accepted by others, that sets you up with some solid programming to then battle with accepting yourself.
Yeah.
And I believe that my soul chose that, and I fully accept and take responsibility for the life I've led, including the fuck-ups I've made and everything else. And so I look at that and go, wow, what a divinely perfect way to set a person up to be royally fucked up so that you could then embrace the challenge and all the darkness of not accepting yourself so that you could have to learn to accept yourself. Because in our purest spiritual form, we totally accept ourselves. It's not a problem. But when we come
on this earthly plane,
if you can just be set up with all the problems and difficulties of lack of acceptance, then you can actually live the process of healing that to then come to accept yourself. So I think, when I think about some of the things that have been hard, that's one of them. And I think maybe one of my soul purposes is to fully embrace everything about myself and accept the light and the dark. And just saying that makes me feel good. And reflecting on what I said earlier, where there was, when we talked about balance and how there was that dark character I played in that play, and how it made me feel really good to carry some of the strength of that energy with me, because I never wanted to be a dark person. When we talk about our podcast being somewhat love and light and mung beans at times, because it is in a natural sense, we don't buy into the new cage concept, but I think we do a natural version of that, which is more balanced. I identify myself as being someone who is sort of like what you might call a light worker or whatever, but without all the new age trappings and bullshit. Because I identify myself that way, like so many other people who are quote unquote spiritual, they don't want to be dark. But in accepting my dark side, I feel so much better. So much better.
Because you're not denying that real aspect that's there. I was going to say, you bring up the point that there's this theory that the greatest challenges you have in life, that's the key to your soul purpose, because you go through the process, and in that process you can then share your wisdom and knowledge. That's where the nuggets are of wisdom. So if you're out there going, well, I don't know what my soul purpose is, well, what's the hardest thing in life right now? Is it making money? Is it surviving? Is it relationship? Is it, the keys in that?
Oh, that's a good one.
I've always felt a victim. Okay, well then your soul purpose is to get out of that and to empower yourself.
My hardest thing in life right now is routine. That's why our last week's podcast, I'm actually going to listen to it again on my ride home tonight. I've got a lot of driving ahead of me. Last week's one was such a good podcast, and Bridget was listening to it, and she laughed at me and said, "Hey, you should listen to your podcast last week. It's got all the answers that you need, you dumb shit."
I thought
she was right. She was right, and we actually sometimes we say things that are wiser than our own.
Oh, listen.
Well, for me at least,
and that's part of the journey. There are things that I say, and I don't adhere to it, and I've got to remind myself and go, okay, I'm human, I'm flawed, I should.
I'm glad you said that, because I think that we do have an ability to give great advice that we don't take ourselves. Not that that's you, but I'll wear that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, and that comes back down to, look, you practice what you preach. That's in an ideal situation, but life is life, and there are times when you just fuck up and you make mistakes and you forget. And that comes back to embracing the whole being human and self-acceptance. And as I say, this is not a destination. I'm fully and I love myself. I'm complete. No. Yes, you are on that infinite level, but down here on planet Earth, I don't know anyone,
Yeah.
even Buddha,
Even Buddha.
who is 100% fully aligned, enlightened, and all-knowing. I just don't buy that.
Yeah.
That's the thing about being human.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are we up to?
Total well-being.
Yeah.
Number 8.
So this is another management thing of your vitality and I guess your health. Yeah. So inner body wisdom, infinite awareness, and intelligence. So
Right.
yeah, well-being. Like, how do you feel? How do you feel on a physical level, on an emotional level, on all those levels, and managing that? And that can come into your practice of, exercise or your spiritual practice, your diet. I mean, that encompasses a lot of things. But I love that, well-being. How are you being as a human? Are you well? Or you're not so well? Yeah.
I struggle with that one.
Do you?
Yeah, and maybe because I don't really understand it. Let me just read it again.
Yeah.
Let me read it. The daily management of vitality on every level, inner body wisdom,
Suppose listening to your inner body. Yeah.
awareness and intelligence. I think that's it. Like, I don't really vibe with infinite awareness because I don't feel connected to a sense of infinite awareness on a common day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Maybe if I did a few more Wim Hof Wim Hof breathing techniques,
Yeah.
I'd be a bit more spaced out and I could get that. But what I do have a good connection to is my inner body awareness.
Great.
Inner body wisdom,
Yeah.
I should say. And often it's telling me, what the fuck are you doing? So, I mean, at least I'm hearing from it, and that's good.
Whatever your version of well-being is. So, I mean, look, if you're not feeling well, if you're sick, if you've got, physical problems,
Yeah.
dis-ease, then you want to realign and get into a mode of well-being.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I know it's kind of vague, but it's also, it's just living. I mean, do you have vitality? Do you have energy? Do you have those things?
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Not
and of course,
always.
it fluctuates, yeah. But
Yeah.
it's maintaining, and it's rest and recuperation and all that sort of stuff.
Well, that Santa Claus gig that I was telling you about, where we just changed it up real quick and went out and did a different thing.
Yeah,
I viewed that as inner body wisdom. I viewed that as a sort of intuitive sense of, this doesn't feel right. And what I learned from that, and I'll just go back to that story again for a quick moment, is that I learned from that sometimes not only are the things that you prepare not necessarily what you should do, but sometimes doing the easier thing is okay.
Ooh,
And that's something I had difficulty with, because I take pride in my work as an actor and as a kind of a person that does these kind of promo gigs that I do, where I play character for a company, like Santa Claus for a company. I take pride in the fact that I have found a way in the past through hard work and preparation to get a group and a room full of people laughing with me as part of an act.
yeah,
And so I always strive to do that. And it's often hard work. And it takes a real sense of preparation.
Yeah.
And there I was, abandoning all the preparation, because part of my inner body wisdom was saying, we don't need to do this tonight.
Yeah.
But my mind was fighting with it, going, no, we must do it, because this is what I've aligned with who I am as a person. This is what I've said I've provided.
Well, will I look professional?
This is what I've said I would do for this company.
Yeah.
And now to just go, look, this isn't right, is very hard to accept that could be right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's
Okay.
how I fought with it. And then when I followed up on the auctioneer thing that week, a couple of days later, to just take the whole thing really relaxed, it went so much better than had I really prepared too much.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's that balance of you've got to have the experience to know when not to, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Being in tune. And you're absolutely right. What stuck out for me is what you said about sometimes it's just easy. Sometimes it just is. You don't have to complicate
okay
it.
to be easy.
That believe it or not, it's that easy.
Yeah.
But the mind starts complicating it, and it's
If you're listening to this and you think that you've got something ahead of you that has to be difficult, allow yourself to think that possibly some things don't have to be.
No.
Even though you've seen them always be difficult in the past.
Yeah. Give yourself permission to feel that way.
It's possible that it could just run easier this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Great point. Okay, so we've got mind awareness, being the witness and observer of your human experience, ego versus heart and soul intention. So just, we talked about, your thought and mind activity, being aware of what your thoughts are, your beliefs, your mind, and that's where a meditation practice is really important, to just move beyond that and witness and observe, well, what am I actually thinking? What are my habitual thoughts? So awareness of your mind. And as I say this a lot, so much of life is won or lost in the mind. So we have this internal battle raging sometimes, this internal dialogue of and it can be running on automatic pilot. Oh, you're not good enough. Oh, you'll never get that job. Oh, you'll never have the perfect, it's just constant. I always said to myself, imagine if every thought that you thought was, I don't know, printed on a piece of paper or just manifested there, and you, at the end of the day you read what you were telling yourself.
Oh my God.
You might freak out.
Yeah.
And the other example is, imagine a best friend, which is your mind talking, just following you around, telling you exactly what your mind is. Because we all have it in a chat, in a dialogue. And you would go, oh, so I'm really self-critical. Oh, I really beat myself down. Oh. And that's what being aware of your mind. You actually can see what you're observing, what you're saying, go, oh. And I know this can get a little bit like people go, holy shit, how do you do that? But that means you got to start sitting still and being aware of it.
Well, yeah,
taking the time.
But I'd also accept that you've just got to start being real with yourself. Even if you're not sitting down and taking time out to meditate, and everyone should, but even if you're not, and you just go, hey, let's get honest about the way I treat myself and my thoughts. I'm pretty rough on myself, and if you can come to that conclusion and you could verbalize and write down the sort of self-thoughts and the ideas you have, that could be useful.
I just remembered something many years ago. I was doing the Artist's Way,
good,
which I recommend, because it had all these processes and stuff you could do, practical stuff. But one piece of advice, try doing, if you're inclined, well, anyone can do this, it's so easy. As soon as you wake up, you have a pen and a paper or a journal, and you just do morning pages. And the thing is, you do, I think it was like 3 pages of just stream of consciousness.
Right.
Unfiltered. I woke up today, I've got a sore back, I'm really hungry. Just whatever comes out. And it's not for anyone to...
You're doing my one.
I had this really amazing dream last night, and but it's literally, and what it does is it's regurgitating all this unfiltered mind activity, and the idea is not to read over it again, or you can actually get some benefit out of doing that.
So the book is called The Artist's Way.
Yeah, by Julia Cameron.
It's a spiritual path to higher creativity. Julia Cameron. Yeah, so if you're wondering about the book that Rob's referring to, it's in New Zealand. It's I
highly recommend
it. It's about $38.
Yeah, but I remember that was so helpful for me when I was going through a really tough time in my life about everything.
Yeah.
Relationships, I'm not good enough, I don't have money, all the existential stuff. And it was just this really good, healthy way of downloading my thoughts, and it lightens you because you've got it all out.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, it's a bit like going into nature and just the thoughts just become a little bit lighter because they're not just incessant in there. So that's just a little tip, recommendation.
Well, let's look at the last one on the list,
which is infinite being. So realizing this aspect and its connectedness to all living things in the universe, your multidimensional self. You are a fractal of the universe.
That's my favorite.
Yeah. So realizing that you have a short human experience in the realms of time, and that you can believe this or not, but there's this formless aspect that is infinite, which is call it your soul, if you like, that is there, that life force. ever present.
And if you're wondering what the word fractal means, a fractal is a never-ending pattern. So people say fractals are infinitely complex patterns that are self-similar across different scales, and that they're created by repeating in simple processes that go over and over in an ongoing feedback loop. So rather than saying you are a part of the universe, which would be like a part of the jigsaw puzzle,
Yeah.
it's better than that. You are a fractal of the universe, which means that not only are you both a part of the universe, but within you, all aspects of the universe are present.
Yes.
And you move and evolve in a frequency that is infinite. And so therefore, to find yourself as a part of the universe shortchanges you, because you are the complete universe within. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because sometimes you can feel like you're insignificant. You're just this person on this planet in this huge universe. But when you connect deeper, you go, well, I'm in this universe, right? So I'm having this reality, having this experience. So I must be a part of it in some way. I'm here for a reason, right? What am I doing here? And then you start that journey of going, okay.
Within you is all the universe, though.
Yeah.
That's the freaky thing. And
It
I
is a
think
freaky thing.
It's one thing to accept yourself, another to accept your place in this universe,
Yeah.
and then another to accept that within that place you are the universe.
Yeah. What do I call it? The universe is expressing itself through you, and you're in human form.
Yeah.
So the entirety of the universe, so you have connection to all of it because you are it.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
That's the unique aspect of human nature,
Yeah.
I believe.
And everything on this planet is an expression of the universe in some form. It's just that we have the conscious awareness of it. We can dive in there and go, and establish a conscious relationship. There's some deep stuff going on now.
It might be time to finish with another one of our breathing techniques, Rob, like we did last time.
Oh, which one is that?
Where you breathe in really fast and hold for 15.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready for this.
Okay. Breathe in and hold for 15. It's the length of this song.